Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I want to talk about my most anticipated releases for the winter/spring of 2015. So I've seen a lot of videos recently about people's most anticipated releases of 2015, but I don't feel comfortable talking about the entire year because I know books are going to get announced later on in the year that we don't know about yet, and I don't want to leave those books out. So I'm going to be doing this by season, and that way I can kind of more accurately give release dates, because a lot of times if you mention a book that's going to be released later on in the year, the release date either moves forward or moves back more likely, and I just don't want it to be confusing, so I'd rather just do it by season, and that way it's a much more manageable number anyway. So for today I'm going to be talking about all the book releases that are already announced that'll be happening from January until April that I am really highly anticipating. These are all books that I have either already pre-ordered or plan on pre-ordering. Also, even though I'm doing these videos closer to when release dates are, these release dates are subject to change as of today. These are the release dates, but they could get moved around. All that being said, let's get going. There are two releases I am highly anticipating in January. The first is Polaris by Mindee Arnett. This is the second book in the Avalon trilogy, and I recently read Avalon and really enjoyed it. It's about a group of teenagers that steal spaceships for this crime boss in the galaxy. This is like 500, maybe even longer years ahead in the galaxy, and space travel happens, and people are living in different galaxies. And this is all possible through a kind of meta-technology that allows them to jump light years ahead in space. And it is a really interesting premise. There's a lot of really cool things happening besides just that. The story is not what you think it is at face value, and I really enjoyed it. As you guys know, I love criminals and criminal characters, and these are a band of criminal characters, so I'm really looking forward to the sequel. I actually pre-ordered the book as soon as I finished Avalon. This book will be released on January 20th. The second book that I'm highly anticipating is Fairest from Marissa Meyer. I'm sure all of you have heard of this by now. This is the prequel novel to the Lunar Chronicles series, and it takes place in the main villain's perspective. So it is her backstory. And I'm still not sure 100% how I'm going to feel about this. I know I want to read it, I know I want to have it in my collection, but I'm still a little shaky on it, and this will be released on January 27th. For February, there are three books that I'm really highly anticipating. First is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, I think is how you pronounce it, and this sounds like a really interesting premise, and it has already been making its rounds in the book blog community because ARCs have been passed out for a while now, but it sounds really cool. It's going to be a fantasy series, and basically in this world, there are two different castes of people with red blood and people with silver blood. The people with silver blood have either magical abilities or superpowers or some kind of thing, so they basically enslave the red population, the red-blooded people. And apparently our main character ends up doing something that she shouldn't be able to do, some kind of magical manifestation or superpower manifestation, because she's red-blooded. And so she's taken into the Silver Court and kind of hidden away, I think maybe even possibly trained, and no one's supposed to know that she's actually red-blooded because she could possibly spark a rebellion, which I'm sure is what will happen eventually. It sounds really good. I've heard some really good things from a few people who have already read it, and I'm really looking forward to it. Red Queen will be released on February 10th. The next book is one that a lot of people have already talked about in their most anticipated releases, and this is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, also known as Victoria Schwab. I have not read a lot of Victoria Schwab yet, but she is one of the authors I want to read more of in 2015. I've so far only read the Archived, but I want to read more, and this is a perfect way to kind of kick that off. This is about parallel universes in London. So apparently there's like a normal London, and there is a magical, supernatural kind of London, and there are parallel universes, and the main character can travel between the two. That is one of my buzzwords, is parallel universes and that whole thing, so I'm really looking forward to it. And this is the nice UK cover. I really enjoy the US cover as well, but the UK cover just really speaks to me on a whole nother level. So I'm really looking forward to this, really looking forward to reading more Victoria Schwab. This book is released on February 24th. The next book I'm really looking forward to is The Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury. And this is another book that is making the rounds on book blogs, but it sounds like a premise I'm really going to enjoy. The main character kills people with her touch. Sound like anybody we know? Like any theories we know? But it sounds a little different. It is in a fantasy world. Our main character is believed to be the embodiment of their goddess in this fantasy realm, and that is why she can kill people with her touch. So she is the kingdom's executioner, and everybody kind of avoids her. Obviously she's kind of scary to a lot of people. She's engaged to the prince, who is supposed to be immune to her touch, to her lethal touch, but obviously he avoids her too, and she's just kind of a secluded character. Apparently the queen of this country also wants to use her as a weapon. So sounds something I'm really going to enjoy. I've heard really good things from the people who have gotten arcs on different blogs, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is also released on February 24th. There are two books that I'm highly anticipating in March. The first book is The Winter's Crime by Rutkoski, and I am so excited. This is the sequel to The Winter's Curse. And for those of you that don't know, that was one of my top books of 2014. I will link my review and gush down below for you to check out. I am so excited. I am so excited. I'm so glad that I read The Winter's Curse so late in the year so I don't have to wait too long for this. I've already pre-ordered it. It was pre-ordered before I even had finished the book. I cannot wait for this series. If you haven't given a shot yet, now is the time. Pick this series up and be ready for the sequel to come out. It is going to be amazing. This book is released on March 3rd. Second is The Fire Sermon by Francesca Haig, I think is how you pronounce it. And this sounds like a really new and different concept. It takes place in the future after nuclear fallout has happened, so basically a nuclear apocalypse has happened and most of the population has died, but since this nuclear fallout happened, everybody is born as a twin. And there is an alpha twin and an omega twin. The alpha twin is like healthy and totally fine, and the omega twin is born with like a physical deformity of some kind, and I think some of them also actually end up being born with some kind of like powers and like psychic abilities and stuff like that, but there's also a twist that if one twin dies, the other one dies. So there's a lot going on in this, but obviously the alpha group, as expected, has taken all the resources for themselves and have kind of ostracized all of the omegas, and our main character is an omega who is born with a psychic abilities. It sounds like a very interesting concept. The twin thing sounds cool, the different abilities sound cool, the twin connection, you know, one dies. All that sounds really cool. I haven't heard a ton about this book. It was mentioned maybe in like a blog post somewhere, but I haven't heard a lot about it on BookTube, but it sounds good. I enjoy the cover. We'll see how I feel about it. This book is released on March 10th. I also have two anticipated releases for April. The first book is The Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray, and this is the first book in a new fantasy series that's being released, and it sounds, again, like something that's going to be right up my alley. It takes place in a supernatural kind of New York, basically underneath New York. A whole breed of supernatural people live, not like your normal supernatural people, I don't think, but more like stuff that takes place kind of in Laini Taylor's Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. It's not the same, but it's kind of like its own unique world, and they're kept kind of hidden from humans via enchantments and magic and that kind of thing. Our main character is a pickpocket. So of course I'm going to enjoy her, and apparently there's about to be some kind of war that's about to break loose, and there's a prophecy that if you find the Firebird, which is this kind of like magical entity, you can kind of prevent the destruction that this war is prophesized to bring. So she, being a thief, goes after it, and it sounds like it's going to be a really fun time. I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of things pop up in there that really appeal to me, and I am so excited to check this series out. It is released April 28th. The last book is Magonia by Marissa Dahvana Headley, I believe is how you pronounce it. And this sounds like a really interesting book, but also it's a little bit of cover lust. I really enjoy this cover, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm gonna probably add that to my TBR regardless of what it's about. Luckily, it seems to have a little bit of magical realism in it, possibly even be a full-blown fantasy. This is about a girl who was born with a lung disease where she can't really breathe very well, she is very highly medicated, and she just basically feels like she can't get enough air no matter what. But one day, she sees a flying ship in the sky, and everyone kind of thinks, oh, you're hallucinating, it's from your medication, but she doesn't think so, and something happens where she ends up in this air kind of nation, air community, whatever, called Magonia. And here, she doesn't have this lung disease, she can breathe, and she actually has some kind of special powers, and of course, a war is about to break out, and she is going to have some kind of influence in this. It sounds really good. It sounds like it's going to be a standalone within Goodreads. It doesn't say anything like book one, so it sounds like it's going to be a fantasy / magical realism standalone book, which is also very appealing to me. This book is also released on April 28th. Alright guys, that is it for all of my highly anticipated releases all the way up through spring. Comment down below and let me know if there are any books that I missed within there that you're really looking forward to, and maybe that I just don't know about yet. I would love to know if I need to add any more to my TBR. So thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys soon. Bye!